Thank you, Bill, Marcia, other members of the eSolar team, Mayor Paris, other honored guests, all of you who have journeyed from near and far to celebrate the opening of a path-breaking new facility that signals indeed a brighter energy future. I'm joined today by two Google colleagues, Bill Weil, our green energy czar, and Luis Arbalou, who is managing Google's energy investments, including eSolar. Gentlemen, raise your hands. Google is proud to be an investor, and we are pleased to be here on a day that is historic not only for eSolar, but for the solar industry. For what you see here today is the first solar power tower facility in the U.S. that will enter full commercial operation. And isn't solar power tower a cool name for a hot technology? It almost sounds like a rock band. But more seriously, success here could signal the emergence of a clean energy technology by which we might, for the first time, economically harness the sun to produce large quantities of electricity. And we would be harnessing a massive, and for all practical purposes, inexhaustible energy supply. By one estimate, less than 1% of the world's deserts would provide enough space for solar thermal plants to produce as much electricity as the world currently uses. That's an extraordinary figure. I had the honor of serving as Assistant Secretary of Energy under President Clinton when the Energy Department operated a demonstration facility that established the technical viability of the solar power tower technology, including the use of molten salt for energy storage. Fast forward to today, when you see before you the fruits of that initial taxpayer investment, followed by significant private sector innovation and financing. And speaking of innovation, please understand the significance of what you see before you today. In many respects, eSolar has turned conventional thinking about solar power tower technology on its head in order to drastically reduce the cost of solar thermal power plants. Instead of employing a small number of large and expensive specialty mirrors, eSolar takes the opposite approach, incorporating thousands of small mirrors that can be made cheaply in mass quantities. And instead of having to reinforce large mirrors to stand up to high winds, eSolar small mirrors have a low profile, reducing material costs, including steel and concrete. Of course, this massive number of mirrors requires more sophisticated software, so they accurately track the sun, leading to high heat output and system efficiency. At Google, we're particularly intrigued with this aspect of the eSolar product. That is, how the performance of energy technology can be enhanced by information technology. Call it ET meets IT. In a recent conversation, Bill Gross explained to me that a lot of time and money went into the computer software that controls the thousands of mirrors that you see before you. But with this software now written, eSolar can take advantage of the economies of scale that will come with standardized assembly line production of what could be literally millions of small and simple mirrors and the tiny motors that move them. Henry Ford would be smiling if he were here today. So we're convinced that Bill Gross and his eSolar team have taken a giant step towards cracking the code on solar power tower technology. I'd love to be able to stand here today and tell you that with this technological advancement, the rest will fall into place, and not too many years from now, we will be producing massive quantities of cheap power using solar thermal technology. But that would be a lie. The truth is that several more things must happen if we are to indeed enjoy a future powered by the sun and other renewable energy sources. First and foremost, as you've already heard, we must put a price on carbon emissions. Whether it's the Waxman-Markey climate bill, the legislation the Senate is developing, or any number of other approaches, we need to level the playing field between renewable and fossil technologies. At Google, we launched an initiative 2 years ago called Renewable Electricity Cheaper Than Coal, RE less than C, that has been pursuing clean energy R&D, making investments in innovative companies like eSolar, and pushing the policy agenda in Washington. On the policy front, we're working hard with many others to get to the finish line this year on national energy and climate legislation prior to the international climate negotiations in December in Copenhagen. Second, to build a clean energy future, we must ensure the availability of massive quantities of low-cost capital. Moving from a nation that derives 70% of its power from fossil technologies to one where renewables provides the lion's share of electricity will literally require trillions of dollars of investments in generating plants and transmission infrastructure. E-Solar alone is looking at billions of dollars of capital to deploy its initial plants. It is important to note that renewable energy projects like the one today often need more construction capital up front than traditional energy projects, but less operating capital down the road when fuel is free. The challenge is that in bad times, as well as good, raising this kind of capital, especially for innovative technologies, is not easy. At Google, we've been major supporters of pending Senate and House legislation that would create a Federal Clean Energy Deployment Administration, or CEDA, to spur private investment in innovative clean energy projects. And third, to build a clean energy future, we must also be nurturing the seed corn that leads to further technological breakthroughs like the one you see here today. No matter how you measure it, U.S. government investment in clean energy R&D is woefully inadequate. Today, federal energy R&D expenditures are just 1/5 of their 1980 peak as a percentage of GDP, when 10% of the total government R&D investment was in energy. In contrast, Japan has kept a steady investment in energy research, and China is investing 10 times as much on clean power as a percentage of their GDP as the U.S. Our failure to invest becomes glaringly apparent when you realize that of the top 5 manufacturers of wind turbines, only 1 is American, and further, that the U.S. is home to only 1 of the 10 biggest solar panel producers in the world, and only 2 of the top 10 advanced battery manufacturers. The good news is that in his February budget address, President Obama called for investing $15 billion a year to develop clean energy technologies using new revenues generated from the proposed carbon cap and trade system. Unfortunately, the Waxman-Markey climate bill doesn't incorporate the President's request. And finally, to build a clean energy future, we must ensure that the energy we generate is used efficiently. From an economic and environmental perspective, it makes no sense to gear up public and private efforts to produce renewable energy only to waste these valuable green electrons in our homes and businesses. Energy efficiency and renewable energy are 2 sides of the same coin. Our technology, policy, and investment decisions must reflect this. In conclusion, let me again congratulate E-Solar on this brilliant project. I'm hopeful that just a few years from now we will see this facility and many more like it focusing the sun's energy to produce a brighter future for our children and the planet they will inherit. Thank you very much.